I share women's stories all the time, but I really enjoy when Burbies who interact with me actually give personal stories through email. So I say that to say this is a woman that is in the comment section. Please be graceful and empathetic. I know that sometimes people's first inclination is to examine and ridicule and judge a woman's decision making, which in hindsight is always going to be much better than in the heat of the moment. We use these cautionary tales as a way to help the next person, not to on someone who is actively attempting to better their lives. I put that out there. She did say, please put a trigger warning because this involves narcissistic abuse and domestic abuse. Okay, let's get into this. She says, I met my sperm donor. Now, when she said this, at first I thought she was talking about her dad, but she means like her baby daddy. So she says, I met my sperm donor, let's call him Donovan, when I was 19 years old. We're the same age. I was just born in January and he was born in March. We're both 32 now. He came across me on a social media app and we conversed for a while. We were supposed to meet up in his borough to go for some ice cream, but it never happened. Shortly afterwards, we lost contact with each other and didn't reconnect until my mid 20s on a different social app. At first, I didn't recognize Donovan, but after a few minutes of talking, I remembered him and we picked off where we left off. She says, by the summer of 2018 changed my life forever because that was the summer I ended up pregnant again. My first pregnancy is another story for another day. I started dating Donovan in August, conceived by September, and didn't know I was carrying until November because I wasn't showing any noticeable symptoms. We were having problems in our relationship before I found out about the baby on the way because I discovered he was sexually involved with one of our coworkers before he helped me get hired to his job. Simply put, he claimed he ate her melons because he was bored. I was shocked since I wasn't expecting that revelation when telling Donovan about feeling tension with a female coworker that weirded me out with how friendly she tried to be. I felt conflicted about my pregnancy at that time. It's bad enough he thought it was a good idea to have me work there without telling me about this workplace dalliance. Had I known about that ahead of time, I wouldn't have agreed to work where he did. I would have tried my luck with construction again or went back to nursing, which I eventually did. By New Year's Eve, I went back to live with my family to receive proper care from my OBGYN. I quit working at Donovan's dead end job and started working at his sister's daycare. Whole different scandal within itself, but that's a story for another day as well. That's around the time that Donovan started to show his true colors. He'd get into random fights with me every single day. I'm not even exaggerating. Every day there'd be something to fight about, especially if he went through my phone. He even went through my emails dating back as far as 5 years ago. When it was time for my prenatal appointments, I went to a majority of them alone. I guess he felt he did his part by putting a ring on my finger and giving me a massage one time. Oddly enough, he was interested in the ultrasound appointments. Even more odd was the remark he made about the size of our son's junk and relieved that it wasn't small. Yeah, that's weird. I'm not sure how he came to that conclusion from an ultrasound, but okay. At one of my appointments, my doctor told me I needed to manage my stress better or else I can miscarry. I told Donovan the news in hopes that he'd stop picking fights with me and let me sleep during the night so I can get up for work in the morning. He was on paid paternity leave and wanted me awake to watch anime with him or for relations. While I was at work with a big belly sticking out in front of me, he was at my house playing video games, smoking weed on the front steps, and talking on his phone to other women. My mother overheard him. The only reason why he would search through my phone is because he knew he was guilty of doing things like this. As a narcissist, he needed attention from other women to satisfy him while driving me crazy with the fighting because he got a sadistic thrill from seeing me in distress. It's like he was intentionally trying to get me to miscarry. When that didn't work, he started talking about going to PATH and trying to get a Section 8 apartment through the program. For those who aren't familiar with New York City, PATH is a homeless shelter program located in the Bronx. If you're looking for a shelter where you can get help getting an apartment in the project building, they help you with that and help set you up with food stamps. At first, I didn't agree to it because I didn't like the idea of splitting up from my family. I didn't like how calculated he seemed with the proposition either. He put in that request once he noticed tension building up between my parents and I. He filled out job applications and turned on his charm. He knew I came from a dysfunctional family dynamic like he did and exploited it to his advantage. He wanted to isolate me so he could fully have full control over my finances and over my life. He also rather use up resources other people needed because he was too lazy to try to look for another job or to try to get certified for a better paying job. Our relationship took its most disturbing turn August 2019 when Donovan attacked me in the bathroom of the shelter we were occupying. I was washing my son's onesies in a bathtub that fateful morning when he came in and said he wanted to talk about our relationship. I was tired from still healing from childbirth, not to mention sleep deprived from feeding my son every 2 hours around the clock. So I wasn't in the mood to hear his nonsense. I calmly disassociated and continued washing my son's clothes. He didn't take that well. He thought he could force me to talk or listen to what he said to say, as if tuning him out was never a possible option. When Donovan started to get agitated, I pulled out my phone to call his father. His father seemed to be the only one who knew how to calm him down. He knew I was going to call his father to be a mediator, but that didn't stop him from yanking my phone out of my hand. It also didn't stop him from breaking the screen on my phone when he threw it on the floor. The moment he did it, everything turned red. I didn't want the noise to wake up my son from his nap in his bassinet. I also didn't appreciate him damaging my phone when he lost his temper. In a flash, I yanked the unlit cigarette from his lips and broke it into pieces. That's when he grabbed me by my neck and slammed me into the wall. I didn't have time to register what happened before he threw me onto the floor and climbed on top of me before swinging fists at me. I fought back, screaming as loudly as I could to get anyone's attention or to wake my son up so his cries can alert someone to what was going on. I know what I said about not wanting to wake him up from his nap, but the situation took an unexpected deadly turn, and now both of our lives could have potentially been on the line. Donovan covered my mouth and partially my nose to muffle my screams, held a sharp metal end of a rat-tailed comb to my throat and said, "You better stop screaming and thrashing around before I shove this straight through your effing neck." I looked into his deadpan eyes and knew he meant what he said, so I stopped. Eventually, he calmed down and got off of me. I don't remember much of what happened afterwards. I just pretended to act like everything was normal and said I wanted to go get some breakfast from the shelter supervisor. I wanted to tell her what happened, but of course, I wasn't going to tell him that. I also wanted to take my son with me, but didn't want to seem suspicious. So I made the tough decision to leave him in the hotel room with Donovan so I can run upstairs to the supervisor's office to get help. She asked what was wrong. I broke down in tears and told her what happened to me. She asked me if I wanted to call the cops, and after a moment's hesitation, I said I did. The cops came, took my statement, took a picture of my face. I had a slightly swollen bottom lip and a small knot from the assault, and put Donovan in handcuffs. I used the statement to file an order of protection for 2 years. They only kept him for 2 days, but by then I was already back in my family's house and most of his things were already in the trash. I tossed out clothes I bought for him, broke his video games into pieces, and submerged his PlayStation in water in the bathtub. It wasn't my proudest moment, but it was payback for damaging my phone, and having someone beat on you while your body is still healing from the trauma of childbirth will make something in your brain snap. The next several months after the assault were spent in family court. I filed a petition for full or sole custody of my son, and Donovan filed a petition for visitation rights. We both got what we wanted, under the condition that the visitations would be temporarily supervised by his mother. Because I had an order of protection, we had to meet in front of the precinct with a family member present to drop off and pick up my son. He wasn't allowed to be near me or contact me directly until the order of protection expired. We alternated weekends and were supposed to alternate holidays according to the court order. Luckily for me, things never went that far. Donovan suddenly stopped doing visitations and after a while told me he was feeling sick. His stomach cancer returned, causing his dreadlocks to fall out and for him to lose weight. It was too much for him to deal with on top of having IBS. His mother also moved to Florida, so he no longer had someone to leech off of or to monitor his visitation. Sounds like he was getting his karma for how she treated her. I'm not going to lie to you. His declining health warmed my spirit. Mine too, sis. Mine too. It felt good to fantasize about a reality where I wouldn't have to worry about Donovan tracking me down and wrecking any more chaos into my life. I couldn't find any sympathy for a man who I caught on audio telling his sister he was glad I was raped before, beaten before, and that I deserved it that I deserved it to happen to me because I was so stupid when I acted like I knew everything. I couldn't play the world's saddest song on the world's tiniest violin for a man who repeatedly gaslit me, threatened to unalive me, came close to giving me herpes, and kept fighting with me because he loved to see me stressed out or sad. It's been a blissful 2 years of no contact from him or any of his dusty relatives. I got a new phone with a changed number. I moved a good distance away from my old address and changed my. Now, all of a sudden, Donovan recently reached out to me from the exact same social app I met him on all those years ago. He sent me a message asking what my Cash App username was because he allegedly wanted to send me money next weekend for my son. He also said he wanted to see my son for a few hours, if not for a few days. He even had the audacity to leave his new number in the message as if I was going to pretend like the last 5 years never happened. I'm not sure what he's thinking. Clearly, thinking isn't one of his strengths, but I'm as angry as I am fearful. I deleted the social app for good, so he can't dox me with my IP address. He's tech savvy, and I'm not willing to test his cyber skills. I told my mother about what happened, and she said even though I did the right thing by deleting my account, I shouldn't have said anything to him. She's right. I shouldn't have. But since I abhor him, I couldn't resist telling him some unkind things. Under New York family law, a man's parental rights can get involuntarily terminated if more than 6 months go by without contact or proof of support. It's been 2 years since Donovan last talked to me and close to 5 years since he's done anything financially. I'm just waiting for the right moment to hire a family lawyer in order to successfully remove his parental rights and replace his surname with. She says, that's basically my story. Sorry it's so long, but I wanted to flesh it out as accurately as possible so that you and the audience can understand why it's so nerve wracking having a textbook narcissist attempt to hoover. I'm sorry if it seems like my story is all over the place too. I try my best to keep my memories accurate, but I'm diagnosed with PTSD, and I do have lapses in my memory from a few traumatic events I survived from. I do want to tell you, ladies, that you do not have to apologize for having a long story. A lot of times, I am learning that the women of YouTube and my other communities are checked in. They want to hear our stories and how you came through on the other side. I know that this woman is a success story as of now, working in her career field in nursing and helping other people. So I know that she has come through on the other side. A lot of the times it's obstacles and chaos and dysfunction along the way. But I do like it when women are able to survive and thrive after all of the chaos. And sometimes what we go through in childhood is what lands us in the arms of somebody that is a narc or abusive or dysfunctional. Anyways, jump into the comments. Let me know what you think or share your own stories if you have one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.